Well, hello and welcome to a very special roundtable. It is still COVID times, and this time, however, we're going to be discussing the countries again. We opened up our flights. We've taken domestic air travel has started, even though lockdown 4 is still on. What does it mean for India in terms of containing COVID, and also the precautions that are being taken for travel? Are they good? Are they viable both for the airlines and for the travelers? First, they saw a lot of confusion with at least 40% of the flights not taking off, where the clearance is not taken, are measures that have been taken in terms of safety and precaution enough? Those are some of the questions we're going to be discussing on Roundtable today, and also taking a look at international travel, because that's the question. When is it going to open up? When will we be again back in the skies again? The whole controversy about the middle seat, that's another question I'm going to be asking today. Well, I think let's start the show going. I have with me, joining me on the show, I have Pranjal Sharma. He is an economic analyst and also the author of India Automated. That's a book on artificial intelligence. And as I keep promising him, that's also a show we need to do very soon. Janveer Singh, he's the director at Celebi Area Services India. He handles the ground handling of 7 airports, including Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore. And also he's handling the Delhi cargo terminal and the aero bridges at Delhi and Bombay airport. So he's our man on the ground really. Prashant Vitti, he is the co-founder and ED at easemytrip.com. Whoever's booked a ticket knows about EaseMyTrip. And of course there is Rajiv Kohli. He heads probably the country's largest independent travel agency. He is the joint MD at Creative Travel. They handle a lot of inbound India travel, and he's also been the global president at SITE, that is the Society for Incentive Travel Excellence. Well, a whole lot of experts over here. Welcome all of you. Janveer, I'm going to begin with you. Really a man on the ground. What is it like? How is the first few days of opening up in life?
Well, these are baby steps. I got to be honest with you. There's going to be a lot of learning and unlearning. The safety of passengers, all the crew, everybody, and there's no handbook, and we are teetering our way through it. It's absolutely mandatory that we open up airspace and allow it. And, it's not only limited to passenger travel. You must understand that India, air cargo, domestic air cargo is 80% covered through passenger aircrafts. So the rapid movement of cargo also happens via these passenger aircraft. So on the ground, the various security and sanitization protocols are clashing also at this stage of time. What is the absolute 100% guideline to make sure that everybody has safe passage and arrives? There are going to be a lot of teething problems. And this is where we are at. So we are the first step. We've opened the gates. And I think in most of these things will be ironed out in the next few weeks.
We hope so. I'm going to come to you more on what needs to be done. Pranjal, look at the bigger picture. We opened the skies, but without the adequate clearances. Suddenly we had Bombay saying we don't want people. Last minute Bombay said yes. Andhra Pradesh said no. Then said yes. West Bengal has a problem. Karnataka. So should the whole groundwork be done before this big announcement?
So, Priya, I think the state governments and the central government clearly have not had a good conversation. There are a couple of points here. One, if state governments want the economic revival cycle to begin, then they have to open travel for everybody. And as Janveer said, it's not just about people, it's about goods as well. While it's happened on railways, I think air travel is equally critical. So I think it's very odd that state governments are saying they don't travel. I mean, somebody wants to do a 2-day trip, they will not go into do a 14-day quarantine on both sides of the trip. That's completely nonsense. The second point is that there has to be some effort, a coordinated effort within the central government as well, between the tourism ministry, the aviation ministry. This sector is one of the largest employers of people. While everybody is looking at the migrants, which is critical, but there are several categories of professionals one needs to worry about. There is a huge ecosystem around travel and tourism and conferencing, and now we have to prepare. I think government did a great job in the lockdown by preparing medical facilities, but the same kind of effort is required for us to normalize the travel, tourism, and conferencing industry as well.
Prashant, how are the bookings been? Because a lot of people are asking me a question that, so many flights in the first day they were, cancelled. Are they going to get their money back? That's the first question, Prashant.
All right. So actually, I'll answer that question in two parts. First, I'll tell a little bit about how the bookings actually happened in the last 4 days. See, these states and centers, I completely agree with Pranjal. There was complete lack of coordination between the states and the central government. State government kept revising their outlook even till the mid of 25th. Even till the middle of 25th. They kept changing their policies, they kept changing their rules. While the center allowed flights to take place from 25th May onwards. So between 20th and 24th of May, those 4 days, majority of the bookings happened on 20th and 21st. 22nd, 23rd, 24th were the days where less number of bookings happened. And also to give you a glimpse of what kind of bookings happened, usually we see a lot of Delhi, Bangalore, Delhi, Bombay sector. Biggest is Delhi, Bombay sector, then Delhi, Bangalore, then Bombay, Bangalore. These are the sectors which people usually fly. However, in the last 4 or 5 days, the maximum booking happened for Delhi, Patna, Delhi, Imphal, Delhi, Srinagar, clearly giving you a glimpse of what exactly were those travelers, why they were traveling. They were not regular flyers, they were stranded passengers. Now, we believe that it's not just that the states were not talking to, the state was not talking to the central government. It was almost like the left hand is not talking to the right hand. I think the petty politics and the arm twisting, won over the comfort of the passengers in this case. And as you correctly said, that around 40% of the flights were cancelled. Now, this is not the first time these passengers are going through the cancellations. This is probably the 4th time. Every time they were allowed an option to go out from wherever they are stranded, they booked a flight. And every time they got credit shell, they did not get the money back in their accounts. So it's a huge discomfort. And also, think about the passenger, who's, let's say, coming from Meerut and who wants to fly to, let's say, Patna. He traveled 3 hours from Meerut, took some special permissions. He traveled from Meerut to Delhi, and only to find out that his flight was cancelled. It's not just between it wasn't just between the center and the state. The airlines themselves had a lot of teethering problem. For example, I won't name the airline, but for certain airlines, we were seeing that the flights are confirmed even till the last minute, while on ground, the flights were cancelled. That happened a lot yesterday. So, we totally sympathize with what passengers had to go through yesterday. And another thing important to notice is that this is not going to happen for a long duration. We believe that this spike, we sold worth around 20 crore worth of tickets in the last 4 days. And we believe that this spike has only come for maybe another week at max, where all the standard passengers actually travel to their safety net. And after this, probably the demand is going to go down. Now, this teethering problem had to be solved even before all this started. Because if it gets solved only after a week, then there won't be many passengers who would be flying afterwards.
Exactly. So Rajiv, only those who have to fly will take the risk and the inconvenience. And as Prashant says, we'll see the backlog appearing. And after that, are you expecting less travel also? And what are your experience been in the skies opening up?
Well, Prashant is right. People who are stranded, people who need to get home are getting home. The travel industry in India has been clamoring and been asking the government, we need to open up the industry. Of all the economic segments in the world, tourism, hospitality has been hit the hardest. There's absolutely no doubt about that, because we're in the business of moving people. And that is what has stopped. Manufacturing will come back, agriculture will come back, FMCG will come back, retail will come back. We are looking at a very long road ahead. So we've been asking to let us open. Airlines was the first step. I personally think, given all the videos I've seen and the reports I've had from across the industry within our own groups, the measures we put in are really good. And I've seen some presentations by hotels, we're ready. But if we don't start opening up, after a week, you're just going to see it enter the demand, as Prashant said, because right now, people who need to get home are getting home. I mean, I have team members stranded who left to visit parents and family before the lockdown and haven't been able to come back for the last 2 months. If we don't open up the rest of the ecosystem, because airlines is just one segment. It's just one part of the chain. It's the hotels, it's the restaurants, it's the cabs, whatever it is. And if you don't start opening everything, opening up the airlines doesn't make sense all by itself. They'll collapse after a week because they'll be empty, so they can't do anything with them.
Yeah, Jangbir, it's, everything needs to open up. You've been, of course, there, but can you just tell me a bit on ground at the airports? What are the precautions do you feel that are adequate, or what more needs to be done? What is your take on the precautions being taken at the airport itself?
If you look back, the airports and airlines have been geared in this business since the very beginning of January, when we started getting the first dire warnings coming in from Southeast Asia or from China. So airports are relatively, you'll never hear of an outbreak from an airport or an aircraft. The sanitization levels are very high. Now, what else do you want? What we do is, there is, since there's no handbook on this, we are trying our best to come around. I mean, let me just bring out a few analogies. Now, if you are dressed in a complete hazmat suit or a PPE, whether it's the crew or something, what do you do if there is an emergency on board? Do you touch a passenger? You don't touch it? So all those things are going to come around. Then there's going to be the conflict of security and sanitization. So you you remember clearly that you're not even allowed to take a bottle of water on the aircraft. And now, they're contemplating, or they already allow you to take a sanitizer, which is alcohol. So if you multiply that with the number of passengers, you have about 20 liters of ethyl alcohol on board, So these are the conflicting things which are going to be happening very soon. So where are we going to compromise? Do you get a pat down? You don't get a pat down. So, but it's not only limited to us. It's across the world. The standard is it's blind out there. So we are trying our best to make it a comfort. So rightly, they were saying right now is that the initial spike is for people trying to get back home into the safety net. It's the ones who got stranded. What after that? We have to bring some sense of normalcy. There is going to be no more airport experience like we used to before. You could sit and get a good, decent meal, chat with your friends. So, the extra security time was idly used by airports by creating a little ecosystem. All that's gone. So we are unlearning something and to learn again. So, but you don't want to compromise security for sanitization and vice versa. So, we are going baby steps right now, that we don't overdo it, and yet, that 3 hours or 5 hours, whatever your flying time, is absolutely safe and secure. So, for me to tell you that we've already charted out that course of action, I think I'd be jumping way ahead.
Anything that came up in the first day that, problems that you feel, which you had not seen, and, if you can give us some examples?
There is a sort of a group mentality. So if somebody comes into and is just wearing a simple face mask, and he sees the other fellow passengers wearing an added face shield on it or a thing, and then there are counters which sell all that, it's human nature that you don't want to let yourself go on that. Now you start wearing all of that. Now, if you're wearing multiple layers of clothes and that, you're going to be sitting in an aircraft which is a little low pressure than the rest of it. So then what? You're going to be perspiring, and then add to that if your flight gets canceled. So, human nature is as is teetering on sensitivity. And so we've had a lot of these, but I'm reasonably sure that in the next week, 10 days, we're going to iron out most of the problems. Delhi Airport and Mumbai Airport are quite organized. It's just the conflict that since aviation is a central issue and quarantining passengers is a state issue, and that's where the conflict is. So, but I believe they are progressing quite fast, and I think in a week's time we would have covered the ground on at least 50% of these problems.
Thank you. That's really well put. Pranjal, this conflict between center and state, and now the court has stepped in. The Supreme Court has also now given its view on the middle seat, saying that, especially in the evacuation flights, leave the middle seat empty. That's just not viable at the end of the day. And if the adequate precautions are taken, then I think, because at the end of the day, airlines are also in a very bad state, and they haven't been given any packages at all, really, Pranjal.
Yeah, so I think there is not a lot of consolidated or holistic thinking on this, Priya. What's happening is everybody looking at it in parts and not as a whole. If you step back and look at it, the travel hospitality sector has the highest level of hygiene amongst all sectors, right? Hotels by definition have to clean their rooms every time a guest leaves. airlines do that after every round trip that they take. So perhaps the weakest link would be cabs, but a lot of people take personal vehicles. So once all these precautions are taken, you have to let the responsibility be on people as well. They are using their their wits to be able to stay not get into contact. You have said no to food. People are wearing gloves and masks, etc. And I think from what we learned, they are being offered by airlines in a great gesture when they are boarding aircraft as well. So I think the Supreme Court, the state government, and the central government, everybody seems to be looking at one different piece, not as a whole. I mean, look at the fact that, look at so while something like Arogya Setu app is very important for contact tracing, each state government, about 10 state governments have created their own apps. So one of the feedback you're getting is that you need to have apps of different state governments and the central government to be able to board. And if you don't have, you have to fill in another form. Now, how will filling in form make you safer? Right? So I think the bureaucracy which is coming into this picture doesn't make sense. States need to make sure that their capability of handling more cases is improved, because whatever you do, cases will go up. Thankfully, the mortality rate is low, but I think that effort would be better than trying to control the movement of people.
Well said. I think the Babus, as usual, are mucking things up. But Prashant, what have you heard in terms of the international flights? When do we see that opening up?
So my guess is as good as your guess. We probably think that it's going to start in the month of August or September, nothing before that. We believe, yeah, I mean, to be honest, there is nothing concrete yet about it, but I'm pretty sure that the governments, not just from over here, but even in the international countries, would be extremely wary to start international flights so that there is no cross-border contamination which happens any further. So we believe that it's going to take some time, at least the international travel as well.
And in terms of domestic travel, what are the apprehensions that people are coming to you with, in terms of, are they happy in terms of security safety, or are they just not bothered? They just want to reach?
So there are two categories of passengers. One who are actually flying for the first time. They are flying for the first time because they're stranded at one place. Usually they would have taken train, but as Pranjal and Rajiv rightly mentioned, that air travel is actually one of the safest ways to travel compared to the other. First, the chances of you getting contaminated are lesser because duration itself is going to be shorter compared to the other modes. And then second, the airlines are cleaned multiple ways. The air only flows from top to bottom. The air gets, released from the top and gets sucked at the bottom. So there's no sideways movement of the air in the aircraft. And also 50% of the air is mixed from the outside. It gets recycled after every 2 to 3 minutes. And then of course there is also, HEPA filter systems, which, are actually good enough to, control the virus contamination. So these are the people, people knowing all these things are actually taking air travel as their first opinion, even if they're traveling for the first time. And yes, there's a huge amount of safety concern, which we are hearing from our passengers, and rightly so. And one thing which we are advising our customers is to actually wait out 2-3 more days. We tell them that, hey, if you have waited for 60 days to travel, why not wait a couple of more days for the states and central government to actually iron out the issues rather than, jumping on and making the bookings right away. It's better for you to wait for a couple of days for the issues, because it's not just, it's not just about the air travel. You also need the ground transportation. At many places, the ground transportation wasn't available yesterday. I hope the situation gets better now. However, we believe that, passengers have already suffered enough in the last 60 days by having to reschedule their flights over and over again. And our suggestion to our passengers is, look, it's just few more days, give them some time to iron out issues, and then maybe you would want to fly. It's just time to think about public interest over your own profit at this particular time. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Rajiv, what are your advisories that you are giving to your, passengers, to your clients? And also, you do a lot of inbound travel. So that must have been really hit a lot. Or are people now making bookings for December, January? You have some optimism amongst your clients?
So I've been doing a lot of writing and public speaking over the last many weeks in my advocacy role. And I truly believe, going to what Jangbir also said, the human nature is to travel. And this is not recent, this is not few hundred years old. This is time immemorial, that the human being is an animal that cannot be stuck in one place. Domestic travel hasn't started simply because the system is not open. The passengers you're seeing right now are not domestic travelers. They're people who need to get back for various reasons. Domestic travel will happen when they start opening the hotels, start opening the restaurants, start opening other facilities where real travel, domestic tourism starts. Now, on the international side, we're already seeing parts of Europe opening up. We're seeing restaurants and bars opening up. The US has reopened up itself. We saw some shots of Memorial Day weekend yesterday, and they're just behaving like it's normal. Parts of Latin America are still operating. There are social distancing norms, but things are operating. We are finding there is a lot of pent-up demand. People are interested. My team is working harder now than it did actually sitting in the office. Apart from Zoom, which I think we're all getting that Zoom fatigue, the interest from clients to learn new products, to understand what is it that we can sell, things that we probably did not do when times were normally busy. Because when you're busy, you're not working on new product development, not working on future plans as much as you do when now we really have no time to do anything else but that. I think demand is there. It's simply when will we be ready to welcome them? We are probably going to be...
Echo going, so I'm going to have to cut you short, but I'll paraphrase basically what you said is basically you're hoping that the business travel and face-to-face travel will start as opposed to, Zoom video conferencing. Jangbir, this is something that Ajay Singh, and I've been speaking to a lot of people, the owner of SpiceJet. His take was also that this, Corona being Corona, but at the end of the day, the traveler who will travel, are you also as optimistic, or do you think that it's just going to be those who need to get there and then there's going to be a big gap again?
I think we got to go through this initial phase of apprehension. And I know enough people who are ready to travel. Traveling before the pandemic was extensive, even in business, whether they were using it as a tax write-off or whatever. But, human nature became such that you travel for everything. We may have time now to contemplate, but I think travel is going to come back as we come to some standardized protocol. Now, if we are grappling the situation in India, you can imagine internationally it's even more confusing. So when airspaces are going to open, when are you going to land, and what if you are in midair and if there's a second spike, what will happen then? So there are these questions which are, but I believe that we are going to come to a reasonable amount of traffic movement once we establish some protocols which work well domestically and internationally. Now, for an analogy which doesn't really work well is security. After 9/11, we never came through a standardized security system across the world. And it's been 20 years for that. So in sanitization, I still think the book is out there. But I believe a substantial amount of that will come back as long, this is, as you say, ceteris paribus as of now. But if tomorrow we have a second wave or, this thing gets more explosive, then we are back to the drawing board, and I think skies could be shut. So everything is open out there right now.
Pranjal, last word for you. Will the skies open up or will the airline shut down? I'm also a little worried about the balance sheet of most airlines because they were already in a bad way before COVID, and now things are not getting any better, really.
So clearly, this is travel sector. Priya is a perishable service. So if it's not sold on that particular day, it dies. You can never do that. Other products you can hold on the shelf and try to sell it later. But you can reduce manufacturing and reduce costs. But in travel, whether it's airline or hotel, you cannot. So I think there is going to be a demand. People are tired also of these video calls. Conferences, for example, is a great way for India to have earned money. And Rajiv will tell you more about how, the inbound travel mostly was corporate conferences. And I think that's where the government has to realize that the same way that they, for example, allowed liquor to be sold because taxes and revenue of the government picked up, It's important to allow these kind of activities to come up. Use that tax revenue to further bolster your medical capability. But stopping everything and then offering a package later doesn't make sense. So what government needs to look at is that open up now, do calibrated opening, make sure there is enough money for everybody, and then use that revenue resources for improving the systems.
Fair enough. I'm totally out of time. And Rajiv, I'm sorry, there was some echo. Otherwise, we hope to get you back soon on another show when the echo is sorted out. But thank you, Prashant, Janveer, and Pranjal and Rajiv. Also, I think at the end of the day, as Janveer said, we had a situation on hand after 9/11, but did we get our protocols in place? And now, of course, it took us 20 years, he says, and we still don't have a uniform code. So now there's another threat. This time it's a medical one. Can we get our protocols in place? Forget globally, even all over India. That's the first big step. Can the whole country come together on one platform and have one protocol and one standard system in place? That is going to be our biggest challenge, really. As always, we say India is the sum of all states, but I think now is high time that we start working as one country and flying ahead. Otherwise, there is going to be a dire time, especially for our airlines and also for us, for the passenger as well. But thank you all of you for joining this show. And this is a conversation we're going to keep having, so I'm going to get you back soon. But that's it for now. Thank you. And that's it from us. Keep watching NewsX for more programs.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.